Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video we are going to start creating our original game. I'm going to create my original game. Now, for this first part, all we really want to focus on is building the first level, and subsequent levels after that. We want to basically build something that will allow us to see what our game looks like. Level design is something that's incredibly important to wrap your brain around, and the only real way to get good at it is to practice. And so we're going to practice that a little bit today, and we're going to build some levels that are actually going to make our game interesting. So in order to do that, I've created a new project called Gloop, which is where I'm gonna focus most of my efforts on creating my program, or my game is going to be created in this project. I'm going to drop my environments into a Sprites folder. So I have my environments here. Now these are just individual blocks that I've used to create. Essentially, I'm going to use these to create the entire level. Some of you might have a different vision for your game, and that's okay. And if you know how to implement that vision, by all means, go ahead. For me, for those of us who are still learning and just kind of don't quite know what we're doing yet, just kind of follow what I'm doing. What I did was, in Pascal, I created a block that will suffice as basically my level, or the blocks that I can put next to each other in a grid to create a level and platforms that we can jump on. I have an exit here, which is going to basically be how I finish my level. And then I have different blocks for platforms for each level in my game to kind of change up the way the game looks as I play it. Okay, now these are all in one sprite sheet. And I need, if I drag this out just like that, then notice that it comes out as one big block, which is not what I want. So I'm going to delete this here. And I actually want to spend some time setting up my sprites so that they work properly. First, I'm going to change my pixels per unit to 32 because I built this sprite sheet essentially on a 32 by 32 grid. So I'm going to change it to 32 pixels per unit. I want to change the sprite mode to multiple because there are multiple sprites within this sprite sheet. I want to change the filter, turn that off obviously, and then hit apply. And now when I hit Sprite Editor, I can actually splice this whole thing up. So in here I have my slice option. If I hit slice, let's try automatic and see what happens. I'm going to hit slice. Now notice that it didn't actually cut out my individual pictures. So what I want to do is I want to change it from automatic to grid by cell size and set it to 32 by 32, and then I'll click slice. And then that creates an individual picture or an individual sprite for each of these blocks in here. I'm going to click apply, and I can see that I now have an individual picture for each sprite. And if I click the little arrow next to this, I can see I now have individuals, and I can drag them out individually, which is what I'm looking for. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to create something called a tile map. The tile map is a 2D grid system that allows us to paint in sprites that are perfectly square sprites into our game and create basically we can just draw the level that we want to draw. So over here, I'm going to right click in the hierarchy, and I'm going to go to 2D object, and I'm going to select tile map. Now the tile map has a ton of options here, and I'm not really going to get too deeply into any of these, but what I do want to do is I want to create a tile palette that we can use to draw onto the tile map. So here's the best way to create a tile palette. First, we need the tile palette panel. So I'm going to click Window, and I'm going to go down here to 2D, and I'm going to select Tile Palette. And this creates a tile palette panel that we can put wherever we want. I'm going to just kind of slot mine in. Oh, come on. right there. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to move my face over just a little bit so we can see it. All right, so my tile palette menu is right there. Now what I want to do is I want to tie this, or I want to create a new tile palette by clicking Create New Tile Palette. I'm going to call this, or you know what, I can just call this Levels because I don't have that many art assets, so I can use the same tile palette on every level. And then I will create. Now, this box, it's asking me to create a new tile palette. And it wants it to go directly into the Sprites folder. I'm actually going to right-click, create new folder, and let's call this Tile Palettes. And I'm going to put my tile palettes into the tile palettes folder. All right, so now I have a tile palettes folder here, and inside we have a tile palette called Levels, which is what I'm looking for. Perfect. Okay, so now I can add some sprites to the tile palette, which will allow us to draw them into our tile map. Okay, so the only two sprites I need for this level are this one. And when I drag that in, it's going to try to create a tile asset out of it. So it's no longer going to be a sprite, it'll be a tile asset. And I don't want that to go into my sprites folder. I want it to go into the tile palettes folder. And I'm going to bring this in as well. Put that in my tile palettes folder. And I might as well do it for everything else just to, you know, save myself some time later. I already have the rest of them in here and planned out, so I might as well just get it done. And we can move around in the tile palette here. All right, let's bring some more in. Okay, almost done. All right, so now all the art assets for all of my levels are in here in this tile palette. So now to create my level, all I have to do is select the brush and then select the tile palette, or basically the sprite that I'm looking for, and then I can just paint in the level, right? And I can go crazy with it. I can, you know, make the level do all kinds of crazy stuff, like have a bunch of different you know, hills and valleys to it. You know, I can add platforms. I can do all kinds of cool stuff, right? But for me, I'll actually keep the platform. I don't want all these hills and valleys. My first level is simply going to be the sprite or the character will move from the left side of the level over to the right side of the level and then hit the doorway. That's all I'm doing for this first level. I do not want my character to move any farther than you know, pretty much what's on the screen right here. So I've created too many tiles. All you have to do is use your eraser tool to erase anything you don't want anymore. Okay, so that's pretty much my first level. Let's change the main camera. I want that to be black, a black background. All right, beautiful. So that's level 1. I'm going to rename this scene. Let's file, save as, save it in scenes. I'm going to call this level 1. All right, so this is level 1. Now I want to, let's go to my scenes. I'm going to delete my sample scene because I don't need it anymore. And I want to create a new level. Let's create a new scene. And actually, I don't want to create a brand new scene. I want to duplicate the scene I have. That way I can keep the tile map and everything. So I'm going to, I don't see the option to duplicate. What I can do, Control D will duplicate. Huh? Control D. And then I'm going to rename this. LVL 2. All right. So I'm going to open up level 2. Make sure I have level 2 open. Perfect. Now in level 2, I want to add some more to the level. And I want to use a different platform style. So I'm going to use these as my platforms. And, oh, I just realized I forgot something in level 1. let me save this really quickly, and let's go back to level 1. I forgot to enter or to have my exit level area. I forgot to figure out how to exit my level. Okay, and then perfect. So let's save that. Save. Now in level 2, we can just add some more. Now in this level, I want my character to be able to jump onto platforms. So I'm going to create some platforms to jump on. And this is going to just kind of introduce the jumping mechanism into the game. And we'll come down here a little bit. And actually, let's make this so that once they pass this area, now I want them to be able to get back up. All right. Go down a bunch. We'll come up a bunch. And really, it's just kind of just figuring out what you want. All right. And then we'll have my end level be right there. Now, those platforms are cool, but I can actually use a mixture of both of my platforms just because I want to change it up a bit, and I want to make it look like we're kind of building onto the game as we go. So I'm going to add, Control Z is your friend if you make a mistake. I'm going to add just kind of a layer of these from the last level in here as well, just to kind of break it up visually and make it look a little better. Okay, perfect. So that's my level 2. Let's take a look at what the, hold on. Main camera. All right, so that looks kind of cool in the main camera. I actually want to set my camera to a more purple-ish camera, like a light purple, maybe. That looks better. All right, cool. And then I'm just going to keep going through and making levels. Ooh, one thing I also forgot. Let me save this. This is just artwork. This won't actually create any kind of platforms for our character to stand on because we need to create a collider that goes around all of this. Now, here's the problem, right? If you create if we want to create colliders, we're going to have tons of, we're going to spend hours adding colliders to every little block in this game. Luckily, Unity has an option to create colliders in a tile map. So I'm going to select the tile map itself, and down here in Add Component, I'm going to select the, let's just type collider. Down here we have a tile map collider 2D. And when I select that, notice that it puts a collider around every object I have in this tile map, which is exactly what I want. That looks great. Okay, so at this point, let me save this. At this point, you just want to go from level to level and just create, I probably need to add a collider to this too. Tile map collider 2D. All right, and we'll save that. At this point, you just want to create levels, duplicate your levels, and then create new levels, adding, using different art resources every single time. Once you get, 5 or 6 levels created, that should be enough for the game that we're going to make. And at that point, you can, move on to the next thing. Spend some time making your levels as cool and as interesting as you possibly can, because, you want people to enjoy themselves when they're playing this game. Now, we're not worried about bringing in the character yet or enemies or anything like that. Just for right now, worry about getting the levels designed and make them look as good as possible. Okay, I will see you next time.